March 18th, 1584. A chess piece slips from quivering fingers, striking the marble floor with a sharp crack that reverberates through the Kremlin's cold chamber like a funeral bell. Moments later, the most dreaded ruler in Europe collapses, gasping for air, clutching at his own throat as panic floods his eyes. Yet what the official chronicles buried for centuries is that the two men standing beside Ivan the Terrible at that instant had just uncovered a secret so dangerous their own lives would have ended before dawn if he'd survived another day. Every schoolbook repeats the same sanitized version. Ivan died peacefully of a stroke during a friendly chess match. Nature, they say, finally claimed the aging despot, but an English envoy who witnessed that final moment recorded one word that rewrote everything. A word historians tried to forget. And when Soviet researchers pried open Ivan's coffin in 1963, what they unearthed in his bones revealed a plot that makes Game of Thrones seem quaint. To understand why someone might have risked the boldest assassination in Russian history, you have to see what Ivan had turned into during his last months alive. Because by early 1584, the Tsar wasn't merely dying, he was mutating into something monstrous. At 53, he should have been ruling at his prime. Instead, those who saw him described a figure that barely resembled a man. Jerome Horsey, the English diplomat who spent 2 decades in Moscow, left behind accounts that read like something from a nightmare. Ivan's body had ballooned grotesquely, yet unevenly. His genitals had swelled so terribly that he could hardly stand, forcing attendants to carry him on a litter. His skin peeled in sheets, and his spine had begun to fuse, bone by bone, curving him into a painful question mark whenever he tried to rise. But the real horror emerged centuries later. When Soviet scientists examined his skeleton, they found mercury concentrations nearly 10-fold higher than the fatal limit his bones steeped in the metal, along with traces of arsenic. Yes, mercury was once prescribed for syphilis, a disease Ivan undeniably suffered from, judging by bone damage. But these amounts went far beyond medicine. Mercury doesn't just kill it, dismantles the mind before it finishes the body. It breeds paranoia, delirium, and madness. Witnesses claimed Ivan would froth at the mouth during rages, tearing out his hair and convulsing. Daniel von Bukow wrote that even trivial annoyances servant using the wrong cup, a door slamming too loudly, could unleash fits so violent Ivan bit his attendants like a wild beast. Yet those physical torments were only symptoms of a deeper decay. The true collapse was psychological, and it began on one horrific day that shattered what little sanity he still possessed. November 16th, 1581. Ivan entered his pregnant daughter-in-law's chambers and saw her dressed in what he deemed improper attire. What happened next would doom his dynasty forever. In a sudden storm of fury, Ivan struck his pregnant daughter-in-law, Yelena Sharametova, so violently that she collapsed, losing her child instantly. His son and heir also, named Ivan, rushed to defend her, and that confrontation sealed the fate of Russia's future. The papal envoy, Antonio Passavino, later wrote that the younger Ivan shouted accusations that would have enraged any tyrant. "You imprisoned my first wife without cause, banished my second, and now you've killed my third's unborn child." The elder Tsar, always armed with his iron-tipped staff, lashed out. The blow struck his son's temple with a crack so loud witnesses in the next room heard it. The young man lingered for 5 days, bleeding and delirious, sometimes forgiving his father, sometimes crying out in agony. The elder Ivan never left his side. When the boy finally died, Ivan collapsed beside him, moaning, "I have slain my son," pressing his lips to the wound as blood soaked his beard. He begged doctors to save him, wept, cursed, and prayed. But this was not ordinary grief, was madness performed like ritual theater. Ivan hurled himself to the ground so violently that he grew a permanent callus on his forehead. He wailed before holy icons for hours, then rose and ordered executions, as if to balance sorrow with slaughter. Something inside him had broken beyond repair. For decades he'd killed to preserve his bloodline. Now, in one uncontrolled moment, he had annihilated it himself. From that day, he lived in 2 realities: one, where he remained the absolute Tsar, making treaties and threatening kings, and another where he was haunted by the ghosts of those he'd destroyed. He believed his illness and pain were divine punishment, messages from the son he had murdered. By 1584, Ivan's body was as monstrous as his mind. He'd executed thousands during the Oprychnaya's reign of terror between 1565 and 1572, when his black-clad horsemen rode with severed dog heads and brooms on their saddles, symbols of sniffing out and sweeping away enemies. Torture became art. People were boiled alive, impaled for days, or sewn into animal skins and thrown to dogs. In Novgorod, a mere rumor of treason led to 5 weeks of methodical slaughter. Priests were clubbed, nobles drowned beneath the ice-choked river, and families tied together and thrust into freezing water. Tens of thousands perished, so many that tax collectors later found almost no one left alive, haunted by guilt. Ivan began sending synodiculists of the 3,000 souls he remembered killing to monasteries, begging monks to pray for their forgiveness. Yet, even as he repented, he could not stop adding names. His body deteriorated further, swollen joints, bursting boils, and bones fusing in twisted agony. Still, amid his decay, he dreamed of marrying Lady Mary Hastings, an English noblewoman. He demanded her portrait, her measurements, even an assessment of her teeth. Queen Elizabeth kept delaying, hoping the Tsar would die before she ran out of excuses. But that obsession terrified 2 men, Boris Godunov, Ivan's ambitious brother-in-law, and Bogdan Belsky, his closest aide. Both feared that if Ivan married and produced another heir, their own paths to power would vanish. Then came the final week. Some accounts say Ivan tried to violate Irina Godunova, Boris's sister, and his son, Fyodor's wife. Her screams brought both men running. They stopped the attack, but they knew too much. Ivan never forgave witnesses to his humiliation. The astrologers had predicted March 18th as the day of his death. Ivan swore to burn them alive if they were wrong. That morning he awoke feeling renewed, bathed, joked with courtiers, and summoned Horsey to his treasury. There he lectured on gemstones, insisting they revealed the poison within him. Then, mid-sentence, he collapsed. Later that evening, as he played chess beside Belsky and Godunov, he suddenly convulsed, scattering pieces across the floor. The official story said stroke, but Horsey's private notes contained one word. Whether by pillow, cord, or poison, only those 2 men knew. Within minutes, Boris Godunov took command, securing the Kremlin before anyone could question the narrative. Ivan's body was sealed away without autopsy. Centuries later, scientists found mercury levels 10 times beyond lethal, arsenic woven through his bones. Murder or medicine gone wrong, the evidence is blurred. His death ended a dynasty and birthed 15 years of chaos known as the Time of Troubles, when famine and war erased a third of Russia's people. The Tsar, who spent his life terrified of losing his line, ensured its extinction with his own hands. Today, visitors pass his tomb unaware. They stand over bones heavy with mercury and legend. The painting by Ilya Repinivan the Terrible and his son captures the moment his humanity shattered. It's been attacked repeatedly, as if viewers can't bear to face the truth. Ivan wasn't born a monster. He was made dose by dose, murder by murder, until even his death became another unsolved crime in a kingdom built on fear.